Are you experiencing sibling fights, contention, arguments within your home? Or maybe you're not, and your kids have good relationships, and you just want to maintain those good relationships. And actually, more than maintain, you want them to get even stronger, and them to really be bonded, and not to have these arguments that maybe you might remember from your own childhood or that you see other kids. So, whether you're experiencing some sibling infighting or you want to head that off at the pass, today's episode is going to come from the heart. I'm going to share my own experience from my own childhood, as well as sharing what we did and how we did things differently with raising our kids and the outcome for that. So stick around because this episode is going to give you a lot of encouragement and hopefully change some of the negative bad habits and attitudes that you might have within your home to turn it to having a peaceful atmosphere and really good relationships that your children have with each other.
Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where you'll learn tips and strategies that will empower you to home educate your children. I'm Leigh Nguyen, a homeschool mom of over 12 years, which includes 2 graduates. When I started homeschooling, I was pretty much on my own and was desperate for encouragement and help. My mission is to be a source of encouragement and help to you. Whether you are just beginning your homeschool journey or you're deep into the homeschool lifestyle, Little by Little Homeschool wants to help you stay the course because all the time you are investing into your children is completely worth it. If you're ready to take your homeschool to new levels, keep listening.
A few weeks ago, my daughter came home for a weekend or part of a weekend, and it was a blessing to have her. But I was also at that time preparing for this episode, and it was definitely a God moment to help me to think a little bit more. I mean, I knew I was going to do this episode, and it just caused me to dive a little bit more into it. On Sunday mornings, I go for as much of a long walk as I can, a robust walk. I walk quick and fast and try to get a couple miles in first thing in the morning, come home and get a shower and get dressed, and we head to church. So I said to her, "Hey, do you want to join me?" She's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm up for that." And you know what? Something I learned, this is a total aside, is that when you are walking with somebody, the time goes by much faster. I was like, wow, 4 miles was much faster than when I do that on my own. So that's one thing. But anyway, I said to her, "You are required on this walk to ask me 3 questions." Now, that might sound a little bit harsh, but she is just somebody who is just more of an introvert and more of a thinker. And so I wanted to encourage her. I've some of the things we had a good talk. It was fun. She's like, "I remember you pushing me to do this." And overall, I didn't want her in life to have some of the hangups that I had and some of the fears that I had, and I pushed her to try things, and we actually went on a hike the day before, and she was much more brave about things than I was, and I was like, "Oh, no, how am I going to cross this stream?" And she's like, "No, we'll go here, we'll go here." And I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna take your lead." So I said to her, so this is my way, kind of a little bit of a pushing her to ask some deeper questions of people. I said, "You're required to ask me 3 questions." And one of the questions she asked me was, "How did you get to the point of having a better relationship with your brothers?" So my story goes like this. I am the oldest of 4. I have 3 younger brothers. There is 5 years between me and my youngest sibling. And he and I feel like we got along pretty well. There's 5 years in between there. He was kind of like my little baby brother. And the other 2, we were closer in age, and we all went to public school. That's also a key component of this story. And I feel like when we were younger, we got along, but things just went off the rails. Things did not end very well in the elementary years and going into middle school and high school years. My 2 brothers, they're in the middle, were not kind. And now I'm not saying I'm innocent. I probably absolutely was not innocent. I also had a very, very sensitive heart, and I just took things very personally. But there wasn't even just verbal arguments, there was the physical. And again, I wasn't innocent, but it wasn't a good and my mom didn't know. My mom really didn't know that this stuff was kind of going on. And it just took me some while to kind of heal over that. And it wasn't until we went to college and I ended up at the same college as my brother, who is we'll say grade level. If you listen to the episode prior to this, talk about grade levels, but he's like, I think 15, 16 months younger than me. So my sophomore year, I transferred from the college I was going to. So I didn't go there for the sophomore year, transferred to the college that he was actually going to. There's a whole story behind that. we became friends at that point. We had grown up, we had matured, and we were alone here at this college. So it was a way that we had to kind of come to terms with each other and build a relationship and a friendship. And I love that guy now. We get along so well. So we have a lot of things in common. And when my daughter came home and we went for that walk, she asked me that question. And it really made me to think back to it. When I said that school was a key component, I really believe it was because we were separated from our mother. She didn't know what was going on. She didn't know what was going on at the bus stop. My bus stop, our driveway was a quarter mile long. We had to walk that quarter mile long driveway to get to the bus stop. She couldn't see or hear anything that was going on. And my brothers were ruthless at times. They would come up with some way. They knew how to push my triggers. They knew how to make me cry. They would come up with something. And then we would get on the bus and they would tell the entire bus something about me. Oh, doesn't that sound terrible? They've apologized to me since. So it, there's a redeeming factor in all of this. Because of that experience for myself, I made the decision, very conscious decision. I said, my kids aren't going to be like that. Now, our kids are not going to be perfect. They are sinful. We live in a sinful world. There's going to be things. It's not going to be all kinds of, bubblegum and, sunshine and happy days and roses and all smiles and giggles all the time. There's going to be disagreements. There's going to be arguments. But I was not going to put up with the teasing and with the fighting and with the squabbling and the tattling and all of that stuff. I wanted them to get through these homeschool years with hearts that understood that there is a proper way to reconcile with one another, to have a disagreement, to have different points of view, and to come to a point that you come to an agreement. Maybe you don't quite like that agreement, but you kind of see where that's fair. But I wanted them to really know each other and to care for each other and to love each other and to know that each other have their backs. So today's episode is what I thought to myself when my kids were younger, and the outcome has been exactly what my goal has been, actually, even better. By the fact, just the mere fact that they are homeschooled, they have been, quote unquote, forced to be around each other. They have seen each other's ups and downs. They have all at times been in one camp of one decision and against me. And so I guess maybe that's bonded them at times. But they have done life together. When we do life together, when we see the good of somebody else and we have parental figure, we have an authority figure that is guiding us in that and guiding us in biblical truth and how relationships should be, then the outcome can be beautiful and it can be amazing. My three kids are between the ages of 21 and 16, and their relationship is just, I'm jealous of it, actually. And it took me years to get to that point. And I just think how much more their relationships are going to grow as they continue to grow and count on each other and rely upon each other and know that each other have their backs. Now, I know at this point, my brothers, they have my back. However, I didn't quite understand it. Well, to be honest, I didn't think they did when I was younger. And so, all right, this episode is hopefully not going to be too long. I love this topic. So let's jump in. So, how can we help them to nurture good relationships? First off, you need to say to yourself that that is a priority for you. There were times where it would have been easier to let them go outside and duke it out and yell at each other and that kind of stuff. It would have been easier for me, but it would not have been easier for them and their relationships. There's a lot of times that we have to get up off of the couch or we have to get up away from the table. We have to stop what we are doing, put the dishes down, and to confront some type of situation that is going on. It's going to take work. It's going to take work to help your kids to recognize this is not how we treat each other. And then to show them, to model and to tell them how to actually treat each other. And it isn't in a way that we are yelling and screaming and arguing that kind of stuff. I wanted my home to feel peaceful. I wanted them to feel relaxed within their home and not feel like somebody suddenly is going to start making fun of them or laughing at them or telling everybody else outside of our home some of their siblings' weaknesses. Allow them to work things out when they are at the maturity to do so, and to also at that maturity level. You can't expect, say, a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old to work things out like a 30-year-old and a 32-year-old. So at that level that they're out, let them work it out, but you have to talk to them and talk them through it. You might have to sit down and talk them through. I understand that they had this toy and then you wanted it. What did you do to get that toy? Did you ask nicely or did you just take it from them? Go through the whole scenario. We want to allow them to work things out, but they are not allowed to be rude or mean to one another. Use your Bible, use the gospel, use the Proverbs to show your kids, to demonstrate how they should act towards one another. Good relationships between people are a result of their individual character. Do not miss out on the time of addressing character flaws, issues with their character. A couple of weeks ago, my 2 boys were saying just off the cuff, they said, "Yeah, I think homeschool was more about our character than it really was about the subjects." And I said, "Exactly. The subjects, they came and they went. You remember some things, you forget other things, and sometimes the character was more important. Well, oftentimes the character is more important than that, but the character that you would learn was from pushing through on the math lesson that was really hard and learning diligence. But your good relationships that your children, the siblings can have amongst each other is a result of individual character, and you have to work on the individual character. But that doesn't mean one at a time. You could do it as an entire group, but you might also notice that individual children of yours have certain character flaws or character that they need to work on, and you can do that on a one-on-one basis as well. So if you are seeing that the relationships are not good, take a look at their character and then dial that back and say, okay, I can't expect them to have good relationships. I can't expect them to not be rude to each other if I haven't talked to them about that, if I haven't shown them another way. Talk to them individually to encourage closeness and compassion with one another. Say a young child, you can say, listen, so and so is having a hard time right now. Their baseball team isn't doing so well and they're just taking it really hard. Let's have a little bit of compassion. Maybe it's not baseball. Maybe it is a pet fish that died and one of your children is much more attached to it and they're just not they're not at their best right now. They're not feeling quite themselves. And so you can talk to the individual children, "Hey, let's give 'em a little bit of grace, give 'em a little space and let's see how can we help pitch in. How about a child isn't feeling well and they are on the couch and it's their day to do the dishes? Well, how can we help out? Let's help out your sibling who isn't feeling well, who has a really sore throat and is feeling feverish and can't get up. Let's have compassion and let's do this for them." So, also talking to them individually so that they can then individually give compassion to one another. Give your children time together. You might say, "What? They're arguing." Guess what? They need more time together. They need to maybe work on a project together. You might need to go on field trips together. You might need to put them into activities together. Often, the more time we get together, the more we understand somebody, the more we can then come to appreciate them. They become closer. They can just develop that compassion on their own without you having to tell them. I remember multiple times seeing my kids maybe struggling in a subject or struggling with a friendship or relationship, and then watching them comfort the other one. And I was like, wow, that's beautiful. And that's a result of time together. We can have compassion and we can have empathy for people as a whole and entire people group or neighbors or people in your church, extended family, friends. And that's all well and good. But we don't spend as much time with them as we do with our family, and so that compassion, that understanding, and that just knowing of one another can happen on a much deeper level. Now, you also might need to pull aside your kids from time to time and have a direct conversation with them about the way they're treating their siblings. I remember one of my kids at one point, I just saw that they were really emphasizing friendships over siblings. Now, we were homeschooling at the time, so those friendships would have been at church, and we had a Wednesday night family meal that we would do together, and then afterwards, they would go to some special classes. It was kind of like an Awana sort of thing, and they had a good time. And then on Sundays, we would see these same people. So This kiddo was really developing some friendships with other kids, which is great. I don't have a problem with that at all. I only had a problem with it when I started to notice that it was then pouring over negatively to their siblings. So, such as I witnessed some episodes where they were at church and there was either like a blatantly rude or mean thing to their sibling or just kind of ditch them. And so we would have conversations about this. It came to a head one day when I pulled this child aside. And these are good to have conversations one on one so that they do not feel like you are belittling them, especially if these are boys and they are getting to the teen ages, and respect is a really big thing. Having those one-on-one conversations behind closed doors where nobody is listening in from the outside. But it came to a head and I pulled this child aside. And probably not my most finest moment. I could have done it a little bit better. We kind of laugh a little bit about it now, but it made an impression, I guess, so I don't know, maybe I would do it a little bit different, but I pulled this child aside right into their face, and I said, "Those friends are all good and well and fine, and it's fine to have friendships, but these right here, these are your siblings." And this child was young, and I think back and I was like, "This is who you're going to spend Christmas with in 20 years." And I listed a couple things and I ended with like, "These are the people that you're going to bury your parents with, not those knuckleheads and dingbats from whatever that you might not even know their name anymore." The look on their face are like, "What?" It totally went over their head, but I was just so caught up in the moment of just passion of like, I know at this point how important siblings can be. And again, friendships are great. I have friends. I've had many friends throughout the years, and they have been there for me. But I really want at the end of the day, it's going to be your siblings that are going to come alongside you. And as kids get older, I know of many siblings that they live very far apart from each other, but they can give them a call and they can talk to them. They might not be able to be there and help you with your flat tire or make a meal for you when you've had another baby. They might live far away, but just knowing that they have your back. And ultimately, this is who you're going to walk through life with together with your siblings. So, again, maybe I took it a little bit far, but this was a child that I needed to take things far with, and you know your own kids. I hope that this episode has encouraged you, and I know that it's probably on your heart to do this, but it starts with you. It starts with you deciding and making a conscious decision that this is going to be important. It's going to be a priority, and maybe so important that it's over the math lessons and it's over the spelling lessons and it is above and beyond the geography lessons, and it is focusing on how can you nurture these strong relationships between your children. And it might mean that your homeschool year looks differently. This could be one of your goals. I know we've talked many times about setting goals, and in your homeschool blueprint, if you have joined that, if you're not, go ahead and check out the link in the show notes. We talk about goals, and this could be one of your goals. Your goals for your homeschool don't just have to center around lessons or completing certain curriculum or completing certain online courses. Your goals can be so much deeper and can carry on beyond just this homeschool year. So, friend, I hope that this has blessed you. If you are experiencing this with your kids or any type of other concern that you have for your children, whether it comes to your education or the raising of them, I do have a mentorship program. I would love to be able to connect with you over a Zoom call. I love the moms. And I know that you're like, "Oh, I listened to Leigh." Then to see her one-on-one on a Zoom call can feel a little bit scary. We'll just put that out there, and I'm nervous too. I'm like, "I don't know anything about this person, but what they have filled this out." But I'm gonna tell you right now, within just a few moments, a few minutes at the most of us being able to talk, I'm like, "Oh, guess what? I have found a new best friend through this mentorship program," and I hope that you feel that way as well, that we've had this connection, and I'd love to be able to encourage you through that. You can get more information on that little by little homeschool.com/mentorship, and I would love to be able to see you over there. But just remember, make this conscious decision. It starts and it ends with you, and it is 100% totally worth it.
Thank you for listening, friend. I'd love to connect with you more. You can find social media links in the show notes and share this episode with a friend who could use a boost to her homeschool. See you back here real soon.